The night shift at Crestwood Medical Center was supposed to be quiet. By 11 p.m., the halls were dim, machines hummed softly, and the only sounds came from the slow rhythm of beeping monitors. But on that Tuesday in 2015, Nurse Evelyn Crane was making her rounds, calm, graceful, and smiling as always. To anyone passing by, she was the image of compassion, the kind of nurse who stayed past her shift, who comforted dying patients, who prayed with families after a loss. But under that gentle exterior hid something no one could have imagined. And within a few months, Evelyn's name would make headlines across the country, forever linked to one of the most chilling cases of medical murder in modern history. Evelyn Crane was 37 years old, a soft-spoken woman with auburn hair and bright blue eyes. She had been working at Crestwood for over 8 years, always earning praise for her bedside manner. She'd bring homemade cookies for her co-workers, stay late to comfort families, and volunteer on weekends for hospice care. Doctors trusted her completely. Patients adored her. And supervisors considered her the soul of the hospital. But as one of her colleagues, Nurse Tara Benton, would later testify, there was something too perfect about her. No one realized how true that would turn out to be. It started in the ICU. Patient, George Leland, 67 years old, recovering from a mild stroke. His vitals were stable, and doctors expected him to be discharged in 2 days. But at 2:17 a.m., his heart monitor flatlined. Evelyn was the first to respond. She called for a code blue, performed CPR, and fought for 10 full minutes to bring him back. It didn't work. When the attending physician arrived, Evelyn was in tears. She said softly, "I don't understand, he was fine when I checked on him an hour ago." The doctor sighed. It wasn't the first time a patient had died unexpectedly. Sometimes the human body just gave up. No one questioned it. But behind Evelyn's trembling hands, something flickered in her eyes, a strange calm, almost like satisfaction. Over the next 4 months, 7 more patients under Evelyn's care died suddenly. All of them shared something in common. They weren't terminal. They were improving. At first, doctors chalked it up to coincidence. But Dr. Hannah Ruiz, a young resident who worked closely with Evelyn, started keeping notes. "I began to realize that every time there was a sudden code," she later told investigators, "Evelyn was always there first." Dr. Ruiz noticed another strange pattern. After each death, Evelyn volunteered to handle the paperwork. She'd file the reports herself, always with the same tone of sorrowful professionalism. But when one of those files went missing, the hospital administration began to take a closer look. It was June 12, 2015, when the truth began to unravel. Patient, Maria Delgado, 42. Condition, post-surgery recovery. Expected discharge, next morning. At 1:46 a.m., Evelyn administered a routine injection of morphine. At 2:03, Maria was dead. When Dr. Ruiz arrived to respond to the code, she found Evelyn alone in the room, calmly adjusting the 4-line. "What happened?" she asked, breathless. Evelyn turned to her, voice steady. "She went into respiratory failure. I did everything I could. But something was off. The syringe disposal bin was empty. The morphine dosage didn't match the record." Anne Maria's blood sample later showed lethal levels of potassium chloride, a compound that stops the heart instantly. That drug wasn't prescribed for her, or for anyone in the ward that night. By morning, Dr. Ruiz couldn't sleep. She went straight to the head of administration and filed a confidential report. Within hours, hospital security and risk management opened an internal investigation. When they questioned Evelyn, she smiled politely. "I've been nursing for 15 years, she said. "If you think I'd ever harm a patient, you don't know me at all." She agreed to a locker search. They found nothing, no vials, no syringes, nothing incriminating. Still, Dr. Ruiz refused to back down. She convinced the lab to recheck all blood samples from Evelyn's patients who had died. What they found was chilling. 5 of them contained abnormal spikes in potassium, insulin, and morphine. But the most damning evidence came from the hospital's electronic log system. Evelyn's ID badge had accessed the medication room at exactly the same times those patients coded. When police executed a search warrant at Evelyn's home, what they discovered shocked even veteran detectives. In her closet were handwritten journals, neat, organized entries detailing every patient she had helped. One line read, "Mr. Leland was struggling. I ended his suffering at 2:17. Peace is mercy." Another said, "They should thank me for giving them rest." Detectives also found unauthorized hospital vials hidden inside a makeup box, labeled morphine, insulin, and potassium chloride. To her neighbors, Evelyn was an angel, She helped elderly residents with groceries, tended to stray cats, and volunteered at church. But to investigators, she was a predator in scrubs. On August 3rd, officers arrived at Crestwood Medical during Evelyn's evening shift. She was charting patient notes when two detectives entered the nurse's station. "Evelyn Crane?" She looked up, calm as ever. "Yes. You're under arrest for the suspected murder of multiple patients." Her co-workers froze in disbelief as the handcuffs clicked. She didn't resist. She didn't even look surprised. All she said was, "I was only trying to help." The hospital went silent for days after that. Families demanded answers. Staff were interviewed. And Crestwood's reputation, once spotless, began to crumble. Detective Marcus Vale, a 20-year veteran of the Homicide Division, led the questioning. "Evelyn, 8 patients are dead," he said. "Each with traces of drugs they weren't prescribed. The access logs place you there every time." Evelyn folded her hands neatly on the table. "Those people were in pain," she said softly. "They wanted to go." Vale leaned forward. "They wanted to live, Evelyn. Their families said they were getting better." She smiled faintly. "Families never understand. They cling to false hope. I gave them peace." Her tone wasn't remorseful. It was almost proud. When asked why she targeted those specific patients, Evelyn replied, "I didn't target anyone. I just listened to God. He tells me when someone's time has come." That statement would later earn her the nickname, "the nurse who played God." The case exploded in the media. Headlines screamed across the nation. "Angel of Death in Scrubs. Nurse accused of 8 murders in ICU." Court TV covered it daily. True crime podcasts dissected every detail. The prosecution, led by District Attorney Leo Marwick, presented 120 pieces of evidence, including toxicology reports, access logs, and Evelyn's own journals. He called her actions a systematic abuse of trust. He said, "Evelyn Crane didn't play God. She played executioner." The defense tried to argue diminished capacity, claiming Evelyn suffered from Munchausen by proxy and an untreated mental disorder that made her believe she was helping. But the jury saw through it. Over the course of the 6-week trial, 43 witnesses testified: nurses, doctors, family members, and experts. Each story painted the same picture. A woman obsessed with control, hiding behind compassion. The key moment came when Dr. Hannah Ruiz took the stand. She told the court about the night she found Evelyn alone with Maria Delgado. She described how Evelyn stayed eerily calm as the monitors blared. Then the prosecutor showed the jury one of Evelyn's journal entries, dated that same night. "Maria didn't need to suffer any longer. God whispered and I listened." Evelyn's attorney tried to object, but the damage was done. Several jurors wiped tears from their eyes. For the first time during the trial, Evelyn's mask cracked. Her smile faded, her eyes turned cold. She whispered, "They should be thanking me." That sentence sealed her fate. On March 4, 2016, after just 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. On the count of first-degree murder, how do you find the defendant? Guilty. Every count. 8 life sentences without the possibility of parole. As the judge read the verdict, Evelyn showed no emotion. She simply closed her eyes, bowed her head slightly, and whispered something under her breath. Later, investigators discovered that in her cell, she wrote a final note. "I did what others were too afraid to do. I freed them." Crestwood Medical Center underwent a complete overhaul. New protocols were implemented for medication handling, patient monitoring, and access control. Dr. Hannah Ruiz, now the hospital's chief of medicine, made it her mission to ensure no one ever plays God again. She later said in an interview, "Evelyn made us question everything, our systems, our ethics, our faith in one another. She taught us that evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it wears a smile." Families of the victims formed a foundation in their loved ones' honor, the Crestwood Trust for Patient Safety, funding education and accountability programs nationwide. And as for Evelyn Crane, she remains in a maximum security facility in Illinois. Even now, she refuses to admit guilt. During her last known interview, when asked if she regretted what she did, she simply smiled and said, "I regret nothing. I only wish I could have helped more." Evil doesn't always arrive with violence or rage. Sometimes it comes dressed as kindness, disguised as mercy. Evelyn Crane believed she was saving lives. But what she really wanted was control, over life, death, and everything in between. She didn't just kill her patients. She killed the trust that holds the medical world together. Her story stands as a chilling reminder that power without accountability becomes horror, and that sometimes, the most dangerous people are the ones we trust the most. If this story shocked you, share it, not for views but for awareness. Because behind every miracle worker, there should always be oversight. And behind every act of mercy there should be truth. Subscribe for more real stories that reveal the darkest corners of human nature, and the light that exposes them.